A lot of prominent Niger Deltans are coming out standing in solidarity with Fubara over the purported procured court judgment stopping the allocation of Rivers State local government areas. Some of them are saying and are making it clear that look, if they are not careful, Fubara will mess Wike up and Niger Deltans will react.
To us, that judgment did not come as a surprise. The attitude of the judge from the beginning shows bias. And there was a complaint that she has compromised, therefore the case should be transferred out of her. Even at that, she refused to step down. There were motions filed. She refused to listen to the motion. She was so set, determined to be the ushered person. But all I would say is a shame to the Nigerian judiciary. Judiciary was the hope of the common man, and they are to interpret the law. But for some time, since this administration came, the judiciary is not interested in interpreting the law as it is. They are interested in technicalities. So there's no truth in Nigeria. Truth is buried in Nigeria. The highest bidder takes up. I'm not surprised during Buhari, this was why he tried to raid the House of Judges, and we are blaming him for doing that. But we can see it's even worse now. We can see the conflicting rulings and judgments. Issues that happen in Rivers State, why can't they handle the Rivers State? They take them to Abuja because somebody has paid them. Somebody's building houses for them. Somebody's building road for them. So what do you expect from them? That integrity is lost. And she has demonstrated that beyond reasonable doubt, how biased, how compromised she is. She has given a judgment. That is not the end of the matter. Every case about Rivers State, we have Court of Appeal in Rivers State, we have Federal High Court in Rivers State. Why are they running away from the High Court of Rivers State? Why are they running away from the Federal High Court in Rivers State? Why are they running away from the Court of Appeal in Rivers State? Why are they interested in going to Abuja? My prayer is these judges should not truncate this democracy. The way they are going, they might truncate this democracy. Because a lot of people are fed up. And Mr. President is just watching. He's just watching. The people of Niger Delta are already aggrieved for even scrapping the Niger Delta ministry. The people of Niger Delta are aggrieved with the way Mr. President has given support to Wike against the governor of Rivers State. The Joe Nation is sad. The Joe youths are not also happy. We don't want Rivers State to be the boiling pot of Nigeria.
Justice.
That is why we are saying that justice must be maintained. We must have confidence in the judiciary. Otherwise, we are fighting anarchy. Rivers State is the seat of the Nigeria oil and gas. And Niger Delta is also the seat of Nigeria oil and gas. And injury to one is injury to all. Mr. President should wake up and stop this nonsense that is going on. If you don't stop it, karma will come. The law of retributive justice will come. How did Mr. President felt when Obasanjo stopped him from his local government and stopped his resources? Rivers State can still operate without a financial account, like Lagos State did in its tenure. We have the capacity to operate, pay salaries, and do things. But if this is injustice, then people of Rivers State will react. The Niger Delta will react. The Ijaw Nation will react appropriately. In the eyes of the law, that's why I'm saying these persons are not interested in the law. The law is very clear.
It says it's not front to the Constitution. That's how it should.
The law is very clear. The Constitution itself is very clear. The moment you decamp from one place to the other, to another party, other than the party that brought you, you are to vacate your seat. It's automatic. And there are several Supreme Court judgments. Besides, these persons have committed perjury. Perjury, they have committed perjury. Swear to an affidavit that they have moved to APC. In another bit, they swear to another affidavit that they did not move to APC. When there are a lot of evidence, when they were singing on their mandate, when they had even declared on the floor of the House that they have moved. These are all records and evidence. And the Nigerian judiciary is having a blind eye on this crime against Nigeria Constitution. At least for you to swear an affidavit under the law is perjury, and 10 lies is a perjury. For you to lie on oath is perjury. And yet, the law is closing its eyes. Yet, the Nigerian police force is closing its eyes. Yet, NBA is closing their eyes. Judiciary must do something. They must clean their house for them to have respect. Otherwise, they are going to destroy themselves. My message to Wike is simple. Same is not ready to fight him. Same still loves him. My encounter with Same shows that Same still have interest in Wike and is still protecting his interests. But there's a way you push a man to the wall and he will react. He himself said, the power of the governor he knows. Said nobody should toy with Same. He's a governor. Small, don't see him as a small boy. By the time he will react, you will know yourself. He himself confessed it in the video. If you push him too hard, he will find himself in a mess that he would never come out of it. But I'm not so surprised because the activities of Wike as a whole shows the law of karma is taking place. Otherwise, Same has no problem with him. Same respects him. Same sees him as his leader. Why must he fight a boy like that? Things fall apart. Said Okonkwo, don't touch Ikomefula. The wife of Okonkwo told him, you must not have hand in the Ikomefula's death. He has called you father. At the end of the day, Okonkwo disobeyed. How did it happen? He hanged himself at the end of the day. So if he thinks he's pursuing Same, he will end up hanging himself. He should retrace his step and make peace. Fortunately, Pandev has provided a room. Let him take advantage of Pandev Avenue and make peace in the state. You have ruled River State for 8 years. You became a local government chairman. You became chief of staff. Through River State, you became a minister, and you're back as a governor and back as a minister. What else are you looking for? What else do you need? Leave legacy behind. Don't destroy what you have done. Otherwise, you will continue to regret, even in your grave. Enough of this nonsense. Enough is enough. Wike should backpedal. Otherwise, and those following him should also know that the law is an axe. It can have both sides. The law today may favor you because you can bribe your way. It might also go against you and nobody will be there to stand for you.
Some people...
Wike disobeyed several judgments as a governor because he has immunity. And he should know that somebody else can disobey the law, the way he's doing it. But with people who want to obey the law, because without the law, there will be anarchy. We are being guided today by the law. If not the law, everybody can come out and carry gun and do whatever he likes. But you should know that same is now the governor. And they can take steps that may be dangerous. In political science, that's what you call public opinion. Public opinion is a major tool in directing and correcting government. There are a lot of public opinion in the newspapers, in the television, in the radio, in the social media. Mr. President should sit back at his right time to analyze it and advise himself. Otherwise, wrong policymakers will mislead him and contest against him. I'll give an example. Most of the problems Amechi had in River State, most of the enemies Amechi had, were created by Wike when he was chief of staff. The same Wike turned around to those people he called enemies and reconciled with them and fought against Amechi. These are life witnesses. We don't want the likes of Wike misdirect the president, make him enemies to many people, and turn around to fight him and say they want to become president. You should be watchful. You should be careful. You should look his back and know what he's doing. Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, a former senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, she understands the dynamics of Nigerian politics. And the daughters, the children, must understand the dynamics. Let them support their husband, their father, to do what is right before man and God. So that at the end of his tenure, he should beat his chest to say he moved Nigeria to a point. It's not just becoming a president that matters. What legacy are you putting behind? So that you can be able to put a proper legacy that Tinubu came and changed the narratives. That is what Nigerians want to listen to. And that's what Nigeria want to say. He has time, ample of time, to do the right thing, to change the pendulum, change the direction of the ship. Otherwise, Nigerian vessel is going to wreck.
Generally, what do you have to add to this interview you had?
Well, I'm a Niger Delta activist, and my concern first is Niger Delta, which includes River State. Wike should know that it's not the only man from River State. And the Rivers people are not happy. The people of Niger Delta should know that there is a war. There's oppression against them, and they must guide themselves. And Nigeria hunger, we must all work towards salvaging Nigeria from hunger, so that we can save this country from becoming a poor country, a beggar nation. We can see Ghana must go. Ghana they have one left, and they are doing better. Let us not toe that line. Let us be a great nation. We are the highest economy in Africa, giant of Africa. And Lagos State alone was the fourth largest economy. So today, where is Nigeria in the scheme of things? At the time we beat Egypt, at the time we beat South Africa, and became number one. But where are we today? Even in the oil and gas, where are we today? Mr. President, ask yourself this question and find solution to them. National Assembly, ask yourself these questions and find solutions to them. Governors Forum, ask yourself these questions and find solutions to them. And the various ministers must ask themselves the same questions. Where do we go wrong and where are we? The Nigerian nation is seeing anarchy coming in. If they don't stop it, if they allow this trend to go, we will tell you that we cannot produce oil and will not benefit from it. The oil will not be produced again in Nigeria.
What should the governors do? The other governors?
They should know what to do, because there will be no money for anybody when the oil production stops. There will be no money for anybody when the oil production stops. So they should all look at the implications. This democracy, we must all work to save it. Whether governor, minister, president, anybody, we must work hard to save this democracy. Because if anarchy comes in, and the state become ungovernable, nobody will enjoy it. We want peace in River State. We want peace in Niger Delta. Mr. President should not put fire in Niger Delta. Wike should not be allowed to torment Rivers people, because we will react. When Mr. President says it was withdrawing subsidy, I came out strongly to tell Mr. President, you have not consulted enough to do that. That what you have done will affect the economy, and it will touch every strata of the national economy. Today, Nigerians are crying. The same token, scrapping Niger Delta Ministry that was gotten by Niger Delta people through their blood is not acceptable to the people of Niger Delta. Nigerians cannot fool the Niger Delta twice or forever. Before independence, the people of Niger Delta said they would be marginalized, and the Wike Commission was set up. And the Wike Commission came up with a recommendation that there should be a Niger Delta Development Agency, which was set up in 1962. They call it Niger Delta Development Board. Later, it became Niger Delta Development Authority. Later, it became a Niger Delta Board, Business Authority. Now, after the war, we now had particularly the Babangida administration came with several other river basin board authority, and reduced the Niger Delta Basin Development Authority to D class, and made some A class, and the funding was given to those areas more than we, the Niger Deltans. Today they have come again, they have development boards. But one thing they don't know, NDDC is a special agency, a special vehicle for the oil producing areas. They said they are giving us a South-South Development Authority. South-South Development can go there. But that does not mean that the Niger Delta ministry should be scrapped. Even though they made the Niger Delta son, the pioneer minister of that development commission, we are not happy with it. This administration started by denying that ministry until we came and said, no, we will not accept. If we allow them to accept today, tomorrow they will scrap amnesty and nobody will happen. But I'll tell you that something will happen. If they do what they are doing continuously, Niger Delta will boil again. Don't forget in 2016, 2014, 2015, 2016, even 1 year ago I was there, Niger Delta was boiling until this amnesty and this one came. Thereafter, we are maltreated, and in 2016, Pandef came to handle the situation. If they think they can ignore the Niger Delta will ignore them. I repeat, if Nigeria feel they can ignore Niger Delta will ignore Nigeria. And the oil will not flow again. There will be no gas. There will be no oil in Nigeria. Let the gold come to the central post. Let the iron ore come to the central post. Let the other solid mineral come to the central post. Let them know the impact of that money they are getting that is sustaining us. Look at the way NNPC is going. Nigeria believes that we are nobody. And the Niger Deltans would not agree to that. Niger Deltans would not say yes to what they have done. I believe that the people of Niger Delta will react appropriately at appropriate time. I can say Mr. President is ill-advised by whoever that is advising him. But action speaks louder than voice. He took subsidy away. Even though an NPC was the only buyer and supplier of oil who takes the subsidy on behalf of the government, he took subsidy away, and Nigerians today are not happy. He has destroyed the Niger Delta by taking the the Niger Delta Ministry, and with the plan to take amnesty. You will see he was testing the water. And I know, without anybody telling me, the Niger Delta people would not be happy and they will react. I may not support some of the actions the youths will take, but I know they will react. And when they react, maybe he will look for somebody. He will look for Pandef to come. And Pandef cannot come because government have deceived us. The Buhari government gave us 16-point, we had agreed on 16-point agenda. None of them was fulfilled. And so we know the intrigues of federal government, I will not accept. We will never accept any deceit from any quarter of government. The people of Niger Delta will prove that oil is our own, gas is our own. Let those who suffer the brunt of it, pollution, air pollution, underground pollution, water pollutions are suffered by us. And so if you don't attend to us, well, we'll see what will happen. Everybody in Niger Delta now knows where we are and how things are going. Let them take their actions as they feel. It's not me advising them. Our youths are there. If they're happy, fine. If they're not happy, also good. I will not advise anybody on any action. But actions. You see, that is an action, and we're expecting a counter action. If you throw a ball on the wall, it will bounce back. So let's see how these actions will play out. And if it's good for Nigeria, Nigerians will accept. Otherwise, Nigerians will react. We have told them so many things. Remove Belek, who has spent over 36 years as public servant, who is due to retire on the 8th of January. Remove him and put a Niger Delta person. Mr. President, it's good for him to accept it, not accept it. We have also mentioned that the MPDC, that you have in expatriates, we have enough Nigerians and Niger Delta who can manage it. But that is where they are having all the oil blocks. The retail, Niger Deltans and Nigerians can manage it. So Melekiare's plan, we don't know. The frontier exploration is another major issue that the Niger Deltans are watching. We have a lot of crude oil, over 200 and something billion barrel of crude oil underground reserved, which means even if we are lifting 4 million barrels of crude oil per day, we will not finish it in the next 100 years. You don't talk about it. We have over 370 cubic feet of, a trillion cubic feet of gas. That even if you are taking gas as much as we want, we will still have. The money you will spend here to explore more gas fields or to explore more crude oil, where you have reserve, you don't do it. You are going to the north, where you don't have. If I tell you how much money they are spent in Gombe and other places in saying they are looking for oil and gas, and that they have seen oil, Zamfara, everywhere, the Sokoto, they are looking for oil, they have seen the oil. We have not seen, Nigerians have not seen. Yet every year, 30% of NNPC profit is going there. Where we have enough reserve, you are not tapping it. You are not making us happy for you to get more gas and oil. You are going to where you don't have access. You are going to where you have book around that insecurity is also there. And that's where you are sending money, billions of dollars, to explore oil. We are watching. Nigerians are watching. And you want such a person to still remain in office. We are, instead of repairing our refineries, we are importing crude oil, exporting crude oil and importing refined product. When you export crude oil or refine crude oil, you have so many things that come out from it. You have the petrol coming out from it, that's PMS. You have the diesel coming out from it. We have the kero coming out from it. We have the condensate coming out from it. We have the low pump fuel oil, the high pump fuel oil. We have the propylene. We have the carbon black, and so many other byproducts. You prefer to refine this outside so that we can import those things into Nigeria, thereby depleting our foreign reserve. Is that the kind of government? The country is in a deep shit. Obasanjo redeemed Nigeria from indebtedness. And Buhari came, plugged the country more into indebtedness, and we are more putting more the country into indebtedness. And what is our product? Oil and gas. And we don't make effort to produce petroleum for export. We are not producing kerosene for export. We are not producing diesel for export. We are not producing PP for export. We are not producing carbon black for export. Michelin has left here because carbon black is not enough for them to produce. So if we are not doing all this, you kill the economy in the name of governing Nigeria. You can succeed now, but history will judge you. History will judge you. Mr. President may have good intention for Nigeria, but those surrounding him may not have good intention. So if he thinks he wants to make name as a president of Nigeria who brought in dividend, who brought in prosperity to Nigeria, it's left for him. If he wants to become a president who brings in sorrow in his tenure, it's also good for him. But as a people of Niger Delta, we have come to realize who our enemies are. We are ready to support Nigeria. We have all it takes to make Nigeria great. But the federal government is not taking that way. Somebody there is taking Zamfara, mining gold and taking money from central bank for Zamfara. And you are saying we cannot take our oil. This injustice must stop one day.
We boil down to the question of derivation.
Well, we have said they should restructure this country through physical federalism. That is the stand of Pandev. That is the stand of Arewa. That is the stand of Fedefere. That is the stand of Indigbo. That is the stand of Middle Belt Forum. So Nigerians have spoken. We need a physical federalism. So they need to restructure this country. That is the only way we can save this mess from us. Otherwise, the country will be bankrupt and Nigeria will be in a mess, total mess. Our Naira, look at the way our Naira is being devalued. Our oil price, when Kerry came in 2019, oil price was 145 for PMS to a liter. Today, under Gary's nose, we are buying oil for over 1,000 naira per liter. Something you met at one and something. Before Kerry came, dollar was 161 to one naira. Today, dollar is what? 1,725.30. Federal government should do something. Otherwise, for us, we are old, we are going off. Our children will suffer. Their children may loot so much and go. But any money you loot will vanish like vapor. And you come back. We have seen children of the rich who have drug barons today. Instead of helping their parents, they are useless. So government should do things that will help Nigeria, help the poor, and let Nigeria grow and become great in Africa. And like I said, we want the NNPC, the GMD should be a Rivers person. I mean, a Niger Delta person should be the GMD. because most of our children that are there have been retired, and we don't have people in the NPC. And the oil companies that we said should move their headquarters to the Niger Delta must do so immediately.
A judgment that could send Rivers State into a political and financial tailspin, with the far-reaching possibility of effectively crippling governance in the state. Just 3 weeks after the Court of Appeal in Abuja nullified its 2024 budget, which was being implemented by Governor Sim Fubara, the Federal High Court, also in Abuja, has now ruled that Governor Fubara's action in implementing what it called an unlawful budget was a gross violation of the Nigerian constitution. Justice Joyce Abdul Malik called it a constitutional aberration that must not be allowed to continue. So she ordered the Nigerian Central Bank to stop releasing monthly federal allocations to the Rivers State government. She also instructed Nigeria's Accountant General, as well as Zenith and Access banks, not to allow the governor withdraw money from the Consolidated Revenue and Federation account. So another cork in the bottle that helped to keep the political chaos in Rivers State in check has gone whizzing over the garden wall of Government House in Port Harcourt, even as this week a militant group calling itself the Niger Delta Development Force threatened to attack Nigeria's oil installations if such a ruling is made. And now it has. So could it galvanize something more perilous for Rivers State and for Nigeria?
Today's judgment, which has been appealed, is an attack on our constitutional governance and an attempt to undermine the principles of federation. Now, how did a judge arrive at delivering judgment, knowing fully well that the subject matters upon which he wants to base his judgment on are all subjects of appeals pending at the appeal court and the Supreme Court, on the issue of the legitimacy of those pro-Wike sacked lawmakers who decamped at a time there was no division in their party PDP into APC, and their seat automatically by virtue of the constitution became vacant. All of a sudden, the judge was fully aware that the matter is still in Supreme Appeal Court and still in Supreme Court, and his attention was drawn to them. But he rushed to deliver a judgment to seize the sovereign allocation of the people of Rivers State based on a matter that is still being challenged. And not only that, there was petitions and manifest evidence that was brought before her of bias. But she still continued.
And that's the lawmaker there, Ikenga Ugochinyere, commenting on what has happened in the Federal High Court in Abuja here today. Well, for his take on today's developments around Rivers State, I'm joined on the line from Port Harcourt by the lawyer and human rights activist, Chief Festus Ogwuche. Chief Ogwuche, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm sure you're across today's ruling, the court saying the Rivers State budget was not properly presented, and it says it must be properly presented before further allocations can be disbursed to the state. In effect, it's stopped any further allocations to Rivers State. What's your reaction to the court ruling today?
Well, my initial reaction, that judgment is one of shock. I say this because there's already precedent on the matter. In your intro, you did a very fantastic job of stating it, and we didn't expect anything much different from what is already on ground. In law, there's what we call precedent, and the precedent is anchored on the rule of stare decisis. We have a hierarchy of courts, and once these pronouncements are made from the topmost court, every other court down the line must affirm it, they must obey it, they must respect it. And that is what creates certainty in judicial decisions, and that is what builds jurisprudence and case law for which reference can be made to. I think there could have been better ways of handling the situation, particularly reflect on the fact that a lot of these matters have gone on appeal. The judgments of the Court of Appeal, which you mentioned earlier, is in the Supreme Court, and yet to be decided on whether it is appropriate or otherwise to deliver represent the budget to any of the factions of the house that have defected and the one that's in there. And it is for the Supreme Court to decide. And aside that, the judgment of today's case, the Federal High Court is anchored on the judgment of the decision of the Honorable Justice Omotola of, if I'm not mistaken, of the Federal High Court, in which it is clearly stated that the presentation of the budget was done to the wrong members of the House. Be that as it may, we all know the circumstances surrounding that particular decision, which went to the Court of Appeal, and the issues about it, reflecting again on the fact that the defendants, which includes the government of Rivers State, the governor, the clerk of the House, and the rest of them, they withdrew their defenses. Their defenses included the counter affidavit to the originating summons originally filed, the notice of preliminary objection challenging the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court on the matter, the counter affidavit asking the court for a stoppage. And we expected that whatever issue is before the Honorable Justice Joyce Abdul Malik, it should have been abated a little bit to await the decision of the Supreme Court on the matter. But now that the decision had been delivered, and we will look at the law books and begin to understand that the power of the federal government and its institutions and agencies to stop the allocation of resources to a subnational entity or component unit of the federal government is doubtful. I don't think the Federal High Court has that power. One is not here lampooning the decision of that court, but we're looking at it on the basis of precedent, on the nature of the federal system that you operate, anchored again on the concept of federalism, that the subnational units cannot be denied the conglomeracy, if you permit my word, of what that federalism connotes. The sense that it is a federal system that exists at the instance of the states and not the other way around. The states do not exist at the instance of the federal system, no matter how warped our own system is. The likes of Professor Isawa Elaigu has described it as a unitary federalism. I don't know where that exists. But then the issue is the jurisdiction of the courts, which also I can say that the court has jurisdiction because the CBN is a party, the other federal institutions are party, but that alone does not confer jurisdiction. We are looking also at the subject matter. It has to do with the allocation of resources to state entities. And if that be the case, then those other entities that are joined are just merely sort of cosmetics, so to speak, because I think it's something that the State High Court should have taken jurisdiction. Right. The members that went to the Federal High Court in Abuja.
Okay. Go on, finish your thought, but we've got to move on. Your thought.
All right. Should have even brought it before the State High Court here to state that for so reasons, for that reasons, please do not allow the state government to expend any further resources from the allocation rather than taking it to the Federal High Court.
Okay, well, I mean, you've made some quite illuminating points there. One of them, of course, being the sacredness, if you like, of precedent in legal sort of proceedings. And we made reference to that 2004 yes. Supreme Court judgment, which declared illegal the federal government's attempt to withhold local government allocations to Lagos State, declaring that attempt unconstitutional. How much does that apply as precedent in this case, or are the circumstances perhaps a bit different?
Yes, that's quite some beautiful question. There's no distinguishing feature between the judgment in the 2004 Supreme Court decision in Attorney General Lagos State and Attorney General Federation. Recall that it was Yemi Osibanjo who was the Honorable Attorney General of Lagos State that time. And if you look at the list of lawyers that made their imputes, I think there were some lawyers that were invited to present their opinions to court by way of friends of the courts, and they did their job very, very well. And the judgment was quite thorough. It was Honorable Justice Wike Kutigi the respectable Dickie Toby. They were all on the panel. And if you read that judgment, it's something that applies not just to Lagos State, it's something that applies to every component unit of the Federation regarding the power of the federal government, its agencies, its institutions, whether administrative, legislative, or judicial, from withholding funds that accrue to state entities that form the component structure of the country. It is totally unconstitutional. And we thought very much that the Honorable Justice Joyce Abdul Malik would advert her mind to it and take consideration of that particular decision. Because the reason for that is not far-fetched. And that is why you see that in most federal systems, the US, Australia, China, you seldom find these kind of decisions from the courts. And the reason is because it is connoted that in federal systems, it is the states that come together to form a unified fora, and they donate their powers to the center. No matter how flawed our own system is, it is the authority of the states that whatever authority it wields, whatever power it wields. So if you deny a state structure of its entitlement by way of its allocation, which should be a replication of what it also contributes, presupposedly contributes to the national structure. If you make such denial, they can opt out of the federation. Right. Which is a possibility. I think one of the states tried it one time in the 17th century and it didn't work. So I think it is preposterous for Washington, for instance, to go and tamper with the allocations that go to Texas from the federal pool. Okay. It is never done anywhere.
Well, I understand that. But so in the context of Nigeria, which is where we are, what are the options open to Governor Fubara now following this development? I mean, it seems like he either needs to find a political way to resolve the crisis or press ahead with further court battles. Which do you expect will be the more difficult option? Which would you advise if you were his lawyer?
I'll first of all start with the option that's available to the federal government. And the option is between the judgment of the Federal High Court today on Rivers State and the judgment of the Supreme Court in 2004, which I think we must derive precedence from. Stare decisis demands that. That is what creates certainty in jurisprudence. That creates certainty in the law. That is what engineers the nobility of the legal profession and the judicature. That in that choice, the federal government should swing on the side of the judgments of the Supreme Court in Attorney General Lagos State and Attorney General Federation. The controversy is beginning to take very the kind of dimensions that one will think is very discomforting for any emerging democracy like ours. We have not fully emerged. A lot of things are still being kept at bay. A lot of issues are still yet to be perfected. The electoral system, the judicial system, the administrative structure, the political structure. And it's something that people should tread very cautiously on matters of this nature. I don't think there's any reason whatsoever for the federal government to deny the Rivers State authorities of those allocations on the basis of the judgment of the Supreme Court, on the basis of the practice of democracy, on the basis of the federal system that we profess to be adhering to as it is currently, no matter how warped that system is. For Governor Fubara, I think I'll see this move as just an arm-twisting tactic, and I think it will have helped to develop our jurisprudence, because at the end of the day, all these cases will end up by the Supreme Court, and we have a much more enlightened table to make our choices. But then the deprivation is something that it may not be able to swing along, with total indifference to the implications. The orders and the arm twisting techniques is something that he may not be able to overlook, and maybe a political solution may be possible. All these are geared towards maybe getting him to accept certain issues certain things that may be not acceptable to him, but politics is all
Right.
about give and take. There are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies.
Okay.
But then I think these things, we have to strengthen them very, very much, very clearly to ensure that the judicial system is kept as stable as possible.
Right.
And
Now-
its nobility is intact at all times.
Now, we heard a supposedly militant group called the Niger Delta Development Force specifically warning that if a judgment like this is made, a judgment they attribute to manipulation and backhand dealing by Nyesom Wike and his deputies, that's their assertion, not ours, that this would unleash, that they would unleash attacks in River State that will disrupt the flow of oil. In that regard, are you expecting some kind of militant escalation to this crisis as a result of today's ruling? What's the mood like where you are in Port Harcourt?
Well, the mood here is that of cautious speculation as to what will happen. Nobody prays for the resurgence of militants in this region. We all were here when this thing was at its height, and it was not a very good tale to tell. And I expected that the forces, the gladiators, the powers that be should put these into consideration and not to overheat the polity unnecessarily. I would say that governance must be allowed to move, and it should not be stopped midway at the instance of a few individuals. We are talking about millions of people that populate River State, both the indigenes and the non-indigenes and the residents and people who will be affected in so many ways by the judgment given today. That's why it's very, very important that in doing some of these acrobatics with politics and the democratic system which we operate, caution should be put together. I'm not very comfortable with that call by the militants, and nobody wants to look out for any militancy anymore. It was Professor Yemi Osibanjo who came with his dexterity and stopped the wave of militants that was going on here. Nobody was comfortable here at all. We were all running out of the place, and peace and quiet returned. But these political gladiators are very fond of this, and each time it happens, of course, it will result to some calamities that you never envisaged. We don't look forward to that. To those militants that are doing that, I think they have to sheath their swords. These politicians, they understand themselves. They can jolly at their own will. They can raise their swords against themselves at their own will. When they settle, a lot of us are not there. And it requires also that the people who are running the affairs of this country should be very cautious about things like these issues of this nature. People are yet trying to grapple with existence, with life, with the excruciating poverty that is ravaging the entire country. And this type of development is totally and completely uncalled for. Charles.
Right, indeed. Barrister Oguche, it's a year, I understand today, since the threat of impeachment against Governor Fubara began, and I suppose his fear must be, in terms of reaching some kind of political settlements, that allowing those assembly members back would restart the process of impeachment against him. I mean, do you think that if the threat of impeachment is removed, that the governor would be happy for those 27 members to return, or is that an absolutely no-go area? I mean, in terms of, advancing the potential for a political settlement to this crisis, because it just seems intractable and it's getting worse.
I think it's all a matter of ego. Ego is all about it. Who gets what? Who gets into what political position? Who gets what authority? And it's all, as far as I'm concerned, very frivolous. This issue should not govern the affairs of this country or any component part of this country at all at this very critical stage. The governor had shown by the cases that have been flowing from the courts, some bit of predilection to allowing settlements to come in. That was why he quickly allowed the processes before the Honorable Justice Omotosho to be withdrawn, whereas he was the defendant and the claimant, the plaintiff, the person who instituted the action in the first place, has his action intact. So it's sort of a misnomer to conceive that the defendant, who is supposed to be defending, is the first person to withdraw the processes when the president gave an indication that he will intervene to have this matter settled amicably. So that is there, but the fear of impeachment is what actually galvanized all these issues. To the very best of my knowledge, the issue of the return of the members of the House of Assembly, those that have defected, is a constitutional question. You don't apply political issues to resolving constitutional issues. There are two different things altogether. It's a different kettle of fish. And I don't think the Constitution will sanction that kind of procedure, because it touches also on the sanctity of the constitutional document, on the integrity to be accorded that document, because it is well satisfied that those people have moved. And there are documents in court, there's an affidavit showing that they have moved.
Right. We're almost out of time. I don't mean to interrupt you there, Barrister Oguche. We're almost out of time. You're making some very interesting points there. But just before we go, and briefly, where do you see peace coming from to Rivers State? Because, I mean, with each blow from one side or the other, we brace ourselves for an equally powerful punch from the other side, and it inevitably ends up weakening all sides, including the innocents who have nothing to do with this raging conflict. I mean, where do you see peace coming from to Rivers State, as briefly as you can?
Yes, the cycle of insuperabilities that we're experiencing in Rivers State is one that ought to have been resolved since a very long time if we have institutions that are strong. I know very well there is an action before the Honorable Justice Obile seeking to compel INEC to conduct elections to fill up those vacant seats of the members of the House of Assembly. And be that as it may, I think it's something that INEC should have acted with speed to get those elections conducted. And the members that defected are still very popular. They can test their popularity with the constituency. But I think that the proper thing to be done is to allow the institutions to be strong. The judicial institution, the law enforcement institution, the CBN, particularly the judicial institution, so that the justice system will be accorded with some shade of nobility, with some shade of certainty, with some shade of integrity, so that they give the law as it is and as it's supposed to be, away from travesties, incongruities, and indiscretions. Charles.
Well, thank you.
Today's judgment, which has been appealed, is an attack on our constitutional governance and an attempt to undermine the principles of federation. Now, how did a judge arrive at delivering judgment, knowing fully well that the subject matters upon which he wants to base his judgment on are all subjects of appeals pending at the appeal court and the Supreme Court, on the issue of the legitimacy of those pro-Wike sacked lawmakers who decamped at a time there was no division in their party PDP into APC, and their seat automatically by virtue of the constitution became vacant. All of a sudden, the judge was fully aware that the matter is still in Supreme Appeal Court and still in Supreme Court, and his attention was drawn to them. But he rushed to deliver a judgment to seize the sovereign allocation of the people of Rivers State based on a matter that is still being challenged. And not only that, there was petitions and manifest evidence that was brought before her of bias, but she still continued. So what was she rushing? Why was she rushing to hear the matter in one day, reserve judgment, and then the next morning she has delivered the judgment? To achieve what? Just to throw Rivers, or attempt to throw Rivers into a state of anarchy. So this judgment is unenforceable. It will not stand. It has already been appealed. And let me make this very clear to Wike and his group. There will be no way forward on this matter until all the subject matters pertaining to the legitimacy of those former lawmakers whose seat has become vacant by virtue of their decampment is resolved by the Supreme Court. And I want to urge the governor of Rivers State, continue to show the maturity you are showing. Present your 2025 budget before the House of Assembly as properly constituted by Okejumbo. Until such a time, the Supreme Court makes a final determination on the legality or legitimacy of this issue of decampment. No court have decided expressly on it. So there is even order still existing that recognizes the vote and proceeding of the former Speaker Idisinehi, upon which Okejumbo is Speaker and upon which those seats were declared vacant. That order have not been discharged. So they have legitimacy to continue to do what they are doing. But I will advise the president. The problems of 1960 and 1980 started like this. Keeping quiet by Shagari and all these other people then. When those working for the federal government were busy dishing out orders, using security agencies, rigging elections, writing results, confronting other arms of government in the state just as a way of showing their support to Shagari. At the end of the day, democracy collapsed because this thing comes with anarchy. And we don't want that to happen. The whole country is in total disarray as I speak to you now. Economic hardship, uncertainties, left, right, and center. And then one man is playing, and his group using our federal high court to show that maybe at the end, when they are done, Nigeria should completely lose faith in the judicial system. And I want the CJN to stop this whole thing happening at the federal high court. So today's judgment was an attempt to undermine constitutional governance. Unacceptable, unenforceable. The opposition does not accept it. It has been appealed, so nothing will happen going forward. But having said that, the higher courts have an obligation to discharge this order, which if not, other states where there is dispute between governors and some godfathers will rush to court and obtain order to seize allocation of a state. The federal government has no constitutional power to seize the allocation of another arm of government, the state government. These are constitutional. These revenues are federation revenue shared at the federation meeting where the federal government takes their own share and the state takes their own share automatically. You cannot stop it. It will be like an overthrow and an invitation to anarchy. So it's unacceptable, is a judgment that wants to lay the foundation for anarchy and disorder. So it's completely unacceptable. I will urge the federal government to please call their appointees to order. This is how it happened in the 60s and 80s. They are not working for it. They are fighting for their own political relevance in a state they have lost because of their greed. Don't let them drag you down. Because when this whole thing will explode, Nigerians will not stand by your side. Because everybody is watching what is happening with our security agencies, with our judiciary, because of one man. What is he looking for? If you go by the judgment of the Supreme Court delivered by Justice Onogeden, in a situation where those seats has automatically become vacant, that was Joshua Daire and Pialong. Those lawmakers decamped, and their seat automatically became vacant. And few members of the House of Assembly that was left then continued to preside, continued to conduct the affairs of the Assembly. The Supreme Court said they were right until such a time by-election is conducted. So Okejumbo still remains Speaker, and the House that he's piloting is still legitimate because there is vacancy in the seat of the 27. And if the INEC conducts the by-election, then the House will have a full quorum. But the Supreme Court said they can continue to carry on the business of the legislator, like budget passing and so on and so forth, until such a time that by-election is held. So Governor Fubara is going to present the 2025 budget before the Okejumbo-led House leadership, and nothing can change that. And let us get this clear. We're not going to destroy our constitutional democracy and judiciary because of one man, desperate ambition to seize institutions of governance to himself for economic reasons. Because of him, the Federal High Court ruled that decampment is a pre-election matter. Because of him, the court that started issuing order to stop conduct of election. And other Federal High Court in Kano have even escalated further, learning from what the Federal High Court did in Abuja. And now suddenly, you want to use the Federal High Court to seize the sovereign constitutional allocation of another arm of government, another tier of government, the state. Federation allocation is not owned by federal government. Federal government is a party to sharing of that federation revenue. So it is statutorily shared to the state. It is a sovereign fund of the state when it gets to the state. If the governor is not doing the right thing in the discharge or usage of that money, there is a state House of Assembly that should call him to order. If you have the number and the legitimacy, you can attempt impeachment. But because you know you don't have the legitimacy, now you are trying to legislate using the court to now use the federal to seize the allocation of the state government. That has never happened in any constitutional democracy. There's even no provision for that. That was one of the reasons when federal government under President Obasanjo seized the allocation of Lagos State government, the local government fund, the Supreme Court made it very clear. And that was how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, then governor of Lagos, was able to retrieve the money that was seized by the federal government. So why are we trying to change our constitutional governance, change our laws because, you know, we can't get over the fact that he cannot manipulate or continue to manipulate governance in River State? He should live with that fact. But all eyes are on the Federal High Court. You see all these things you are doing. The Federal High Court. The whole country is watching you. On this reverse matter, the Federal High Court might rise or collapse. And the NJC should not keep quiet and be allowing them to be doing what they are doing. Over 30-something expert applications. Cases filed in expert in favor of Pro-Wike. Are we stupid? Are we fools? We're not fools. Judgment is not about dishing out of judgment. It is the perception. It is the, you know, the belief that justice has been done. Where is the justice in almost over 20-something applications that have been granted? Even the ones that their judicial in state high court are brought to federal high court. Even when judges in federal high court Port Harcourt are sitting, they will say, oh, they are not going to give Wike group what they want. They will transfer the cases to other judges. But the petition have been written against judges who have shown manifest bias. And the CJ allowed them to continue. That is how Justice Abdulmalik Judge continued, rushed it. Even the right of reply by those before her court, she shut them out and just arrived and then delivered judgment, seized allocation. That is going to be practically impossible. Now the government has appealed this judgment, and we're very confident that higher courts would discharge this order, which is unknown to our constitutional governance, which is a recipe for anarchy. And I'm calling on Rivers people to rise. You can see now that this is not about Fubara. It's about one man's hatred for you people. He wants the state to be grounded. The last time their supporters, the Pro-Wike group, you are burning and bombing your local government headquarters, shooting at people, carrying bombs to rallies. So you can see this is madness.
It is no longer news that the battle for supremacy between Fubara and Wike River State has been lingering for quite some time now. And Wike seems not to be stopping soon. Pro-Wike lawmakers in River State are at their own venue, trying to cause chaos in rivers by way of procuring legal judgment in their favor. However, so many prominent Niger Deltans have stand solidly in solidarity with Fubara, and they are still lauding it that if they are not careful, if they try anything to, if they make the attempt to stop Rivers allocation, Niger Deltans will react to it at the appropriate time.